Director of Communications for the City of Enid. And with me today is the City Manager, Gerald Gilbert, and the Assistant City Manager, Scott Morris, to give another city COVID update. Thank you for joining us.
Derek.
Okay, as of Friday, we know that the first phase of the reopening strategy for the economy here in Enid started. Many residents are wondering more about the business hours as far as the City of Enid goes, the public places like the landfill, the recycling center, and the yard waste. Can you tell me about those things, one of you?
Sure. We are full speed ahead, and today was our first day to get back to Monday green yard waste containers. So the solid waste department is picking up all of the green carts on Monday starting today. The landfill is back to our regular summer hours, so from Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., the landfill is open, and Saturdays from 8 to 4. And we've had a lot of questions about recycling. Our recycling center is open Monday through Friday, 10 to 3, and on Saturday from 9 to 12. And so all of those are back in the swing. I know there are a lot of people that are happy about getting to the landfill and being able to do recycling again, so we're back into it.
And the bulk pickup begins also, correct?
Oh, yes. If you've got a bulk pickup, please call it in, 616-7300. They are out picking up bulk right now, and will be every day until we get the list cleared off. So we're back to it.
Since spring has begun and summer is on its way, many people would like to clean up their houses. So talk about garage sales permits. How are we doing that now?
Okay, garage sale permits. Also, there are some numbers up here on the screen. You can call those in and get that taken care of. They can email your permit to you. If you don't want to receive an email, if you've given them enough time, they can put your permit in an envelope and mail it to you in time. So if that's the way that you would rather receive your permit, then call ahead and give them that date for your garage sale in enough time where they can mail the permit out to you. Otherwise, the plan is just to get your email address and you can print it out yourself and have your garage sale.
Okay. As far as the city offices in general, when will those open up to the public?
Looks like June 1st is our plan to open up all the rest of the library and the City of Enid administration building. So hopefully we'll be on track with our phases and we can open up our administration building back on June 1st is what our plan is right now.
Okay. Okay. Tomorrow is a planned commission meeting for city commissioners. Can you tell me about the strategy there will be? Will it be in-house? Will it be virtual? Will it be both? And tell me about the seating capacity, all of those.
Okay, great. Yes, Derek. The meeting will be held in person and on Zoom, so we'll be doing both. We at the City view the month of May as a transition month. Mm-hmm. So as we transition back to opening businesses back up, opening certain offices that haven't been opened up before, and at some point getting to events that allow a larger group of people than what we've been restricted to with 10. We're stepping out to try and do that now in the month of May. So the commission meeting, for a couple of reasons, we need to have in person. One is we have some significant items. CMAR, the construction manager at risk with Call Lake, is one of them that really is just better suited to a conversation with staff, with Garver and Garney in the same room. Could that be done by Zoom? Yes, but probably not as effectively, particularly since it was tabled on 3/17, because we didn't have the staff, we didn't present or give the best or all of the information. We've combined the two phases into one. I think it's a much better product, but it really works better in person. So, but we also want to have it in Zoom to help control numbers of people that need to feel like that they have to come to the building. You don't have to. We will have limited staff there that can just address the particular items. Staff that might normally attend but doesn't necessarily have a meeting, I've asked to not be there. They can watch on Zoom, or they can watch on YouTube or Facebook. We'll also be checking temperatures as people come into the door. Our safety coordinator will be there, Louise Anguano. We'll have hand sanitizer. We'll have masks available for people to wear if they would like to wear that. We've also rearranged the room so it won't look like it normally does, because we want to be sure and maintain 6 feet of distance. And so we'll be doing that, and by definition that will control numbers that can come into the room. So while the meeting is open to the public, public that would like to come and address any item can, but we would also encourage them that if they can do it over Zoom, that they can do it by Zoom as well. I'm confident that not every commissioner will be there for various reasons, and some may be they're not comfortable, or they may be in that vulnerable group or have people in their family in that vulnerable group, and we want to offer it both ways. And we'll probably do that throughout May, and then we'll see how May goes as we go into June.
Okay. Can you give us a couple of highlights of the Phase 1 reopening? What's going to be open to those that may not know by now? I'm sure most people do know, but can you just give us an update of that?
I'll jump out there with a few things. I know, let's see, we launched that on just Friday, and I guess last Monday the mayor announced the reopening plan. Most businesses are allowed to reopen. I want to say that the mayor and commissioners who are volunteers, serve without compensation, I think have shown incredible leadership during this difficult time. None of them knew that what they were getting into with the COVID crisis, and so I really, really appreciate their leadership and guidance. I know that for the most part there is, I believe, widespread agreement that we're doing the right thing with reopening, although I know that that's not 100% agreement. So what we're trying to do is balance taking the governor's plan, with the exception of the timelines. We've stretched out a little longer than he has, because we're trying to do this in a responsible, safe manner, and to allow time to see what the impact of the changes is with the COVID issues. We know that there have been more positives since last week when we announced the plan. In fact, it's nearly doubled. But still, I think the city's at 17, I think the county's at 19 COVID positive cases. And so we feel like that's still a low number. We are still following up on the results of the Commons, and I don't have the answer for that yet on whether they're completed with the testing or not, but I know some of those positives would have come from there. So anyway, with that, most businesses are open. There's some specific exceptions, which we've said currently are movie theaters. While the bowling center has been allowed to be open, we have discouraged and said that bowling leagues couldn't take place in Phase 1, organized activities or golf tournaments, things like that. Those are the primary things. And of course, large gatherings like events and concerts that any that we would be putting on through the event center are delayed into the fall anyway. So that's kind of where we're at specifically, Scott. I'm sure I've missed a few things, or there's some follow-up items.
I think you hit it. You know, we've had a lot of questions about can my little league team practice? Can we do some outdoor practices before the games are able to start on June 1st? And we have said yes. You can have practice in groups of 15 or less. That allows for an entire baseball team and a few coaches, or a soccer team and some coaches. That way they can get a few practices in before June. That may be all that I can think of that we.
Okay.
Well, the other question would be, if some of the residents were wondering if the commission has begun working on adjusting the dates for the Phase 1, 2, and 3. That is, if the numbers begin to decrease.
I'll speak generally for the commission, and tomorrow night the emergency declaration is on the agenda, so people can tune in and listen to what or see what the commission does. I think for the most part, my conversations, which have been individual conversations with various commissioners and the mayor, have been that they're generally okay and supportive of the timelines. That does not mean there might not be some discussion about it. I think since most businesses are opened in Phase 1, maybe there's less concern about the length, but I know that whether it's now or later in the week or next week, there will be some concern about a few things that aren't allowed until Phase 2, because Phase 2, according to the plan, doesn't start till the 1st. But one of the things that is in the plan is it does allow for the mayor and commissioners to consider changing the timeline as needed, not only if it's appropriate to move something up, but also if we have issues and more significant COVID issues in the community, we might also back things up. So for that reason, I think that the current timeline is viewed by most of the commission, I believe, is fair and reasonable. Doesn't mean that something might not change. And so I would encourage you to tune in tomorrow. You can hear them discuss and debate it, and if they make any changes, we'll hear about it tomorrow.
Okay. As far as phase 3, it said that the plan for phase 3 would become relevant when, or they would start working on it when phase 2 is almost over. Is that still the plan?
Yes, and I think for several reasons. One is we're still several weeks away, or almost a month away from phase 2. The governor has, while he's fleshed out his phase 2, he also does not have a very well-defined phase 3. So I know that he's going to come back at some point, and we would want to incorporate or at least consider his input at that time. But phase 3 for us looks like it's events or anything that generates large gatherings. One little follow-up in the governor's plan, the president's plan, social distancing is a concept that's probably going to be with us for a while, clearly into phase 2. And it's hard for me to picture it not being in phase 3, at least until there's a vaccine, because that's been shown to be one of the most effective tools of communities to help slow the spread. So.
Okay. Now Scott, you talked about groups being able to practice 15 or less. When it comes to groups, are we saying 15 or less, 10 or less, or is it the numbers, or is it more just social distancing? How are we going by that?
You know, like Gerald was just talking about social distancing, I think that's going to be the thing in the future. You know, churches were able to start having services May 3rd, and so there are our religious organizations had their services, and most of those had more than 10. If you go into a restaurant that's able to be open, or the bowling alley just to want to bowl, even though every other lane is closed, there are going to be more than 10 people in there, and so the number 10 isn't as significant as it was, but I would still highly encourage everyone to practice social distancing and try to be respectful of the other people that are around you that may not be comfortable if you're inside their space. So, you know, I would encourage everyone to try to maintain a 6-foot distance from other groups as best you can.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the plan, when we talk about specifically one of the issues were bars when you look on our Facebook page, a lot of people mention that. Can you explain the reasoning behind the bars being in the latter phase than the first phase, as far as the ability to social distance, to clear up the information, and understanding that this came from White House, CDC, and governor guidelines as well, but the reasoning behind it?
Sure, I'll take that one. The easiest answer right now is in the governor's plan, bars weren't allowed to open until May 15th. That is phase 2 with the governor's plan. It is also in phase 2 of the city's current reopening plan. The difference is the city's expected timeline to get to phase 2 is June the 1st currently, although it could be sooner if the mayor and commissioners want to take that action. The second reason, I guess, and difference I see is that bars typically involve social activity where people are trying to generally not try and distance, they're trying to get closer together. So whether that's a great reason or not, that's the reasoning behind it. I think that overall, since it's in the governor's plan, or not in his plan until May 15th, I think we're fine now at this point. I do understand bar owners have been hurt just like everybody else in this. I would encourage going forward, as we see how the COVID crisis continues to unfold in Enid, let's give it another week or two and see how activity is occurring, see what the impact is with all this additional business in church and other activities going on, practices. And I know that the mayor and commissioners are responsive to business owners, so I would recommend if there's bar owners out there that feel like June 1st is a problem, that you would mention that to the mayor. You can also tell me as well. I'll take it to them. But I do know that just the concerns about the proximity, even in the governor's plan in phase 2, which starts May 15th, if that starts on time for the governor and per his plan, I believe there's still some restrictions for standing room type events. I have to go back and look at that. So I don't think it's just wide open bars, do whatever you want kind of thing. I think, of course, it's going to be like that for restaurants and other businesses, well, every business and church. There's rules, and I think social distancing will be, at least for a long time, a key component of that, as best you can. As Scott said, clearly at my church, we had church outside this time. Family units, there's no social distancing there. But honestly, when at the house, there's probably no social distancing there. The idea was to keep between those groups to try and keep the distance. And actually at my church, some people were still in cars too. So anyway, there's a lot left to figure out. I would ask that as we reopen things, let's give it a week or two, see how things go. If things are looking good, I'm sure that the mayor and commissioners would consider maybe things that are difficult to consider right now. Bars would probably be one of them.
And I imagine if the case, they may consider changing the number or the dates. They could consider that and reduce it if the cases don't rise in a certain period of time. But that'll be a mayor commissioner type
Yes.
deal.
Yeah, we have some criteria in the plan, as people have seen. One is a criteria about comparison of numbers of positive tests to overall tests conducted during the time period.
Mm-hmm.
We've said generally 10% of the tests. I don't know that we clearly specified the time period, but you could look at about any time period, in a week, in a month. Clearly now, there's not 10% of the tests going on in Enid that are coming back positive. We also said that 5 consecutive days of increasing positive numbers would be a trigger for us to look at and contemplate. We have had, over the past several days, we've had some increases, obviously, but not every day and in different numbers. So it's still a relatively low overall number for us, and we're still searching for better leading indicators, because I know the mayor and all the commissioners are committed to anything that we do. The moment that we could find out that something that we were allowing or not discouraging or otherwise regulating was leading to an increase or a spike, we would want to know before that spike occurred. And the difficulty, and the whole world is struggling now, what is that factor? So right now we're listening to the hospitals in Garfield County, but it's been pointed out, by the time a hospital has a problem, you're at least 2 weeks behind. So we're hopeful that just numbers, as testing becomes more prevalent, if those numbers get really big, of numbers of positive, we know we potentially have issues. So.
Okay. So what do you guys think? You think that this, just like 9/11, when that happened, it changed the course of how things are done in airport forever. You think this is going to be just a change? It may not be a greater change as it is now, but do you think it's going to be some type of change that will be there for the rest of the time after this?
That's a difficult question to answer. I think you're probably right. I did read an article that United Airlines had put out that said the COVID-19 pandemic has been the airline's greatest challenge ever, with their declining. Hotels and motels are down. People are traveling less. Who knows what cruise ships are going to look like in the future. So I think time will tell all those things, but you could be right that this might have an impact on the way we view travel and the things that we do. Maybe we take more risks, or we have done things that weren't necessarily essential or necessary, and I don't know how the world's going to react to that, on what kinds of travel that they do after this is over. So I think time will tell. It's a good question, though.
Okay. Here's some general questions. This has nothing to do with COVID-19, but just general city practices. One question was concerning the commission meetings coming up. When will the Suddenlink contract come up before the commission?
That's a great question. The Suddenlink franchise or agreement that we had actually expired on April 22nd. I know we've been delayed for various reasons. One of them is the COVID crisis that's impacted all of us, including Suddenlink and the city. During this period, over the last couple of months, we've still been in contact with Suddenlink, working on a revised agreement. I think we are. I think we have a draft agreement based on feedback that and guidance that has been clearly given from the mayor and commission about what's important for the city that we have ready to send to them for their contemplation. But it'll still probably be several weeks or a month before we get back in front of the city commission to discuss the issue. But just to remind everybody, what's really important to universally to the mayor and commissioners is improved customer service and metrics to measure that, to know that we're getting good customer service, and a capital investment from Suddenlink, particularly around fiber to the home. And the fiber to the home one's probably going to be tougher working with Suddenlink because having been in a room with them already and hearing them, they believe they have an investment already that provides for the future and for upgrades, and in their words, would provide the same thing that you can get in a neighborhood in Dallas. I don't know if that's completely accurate with the perceptions of some of the governing body, the commissioners, and the public. Mm-hmm. So we're working to get the best deal that we can to bring back to the commission soon. Great question, but the number one thing was customer service. One of the things that I had heard was that the local customer service office was closed, the one that's over there on in Westgate, the Westgate shopping area. Suddenlink has confirmed that that's a COVID-related thing, that's a temporary thing. So if anybody's been looking to go to the office, it's probably not been a surprise to them that that's closed, much like the administration building is closed as a safety precaution. Now, it should be reopened at some point, I would say in the near future, as part of this reopening stuff.
Okay. Every year, the city goes through a budget phase. Can you talk to us about the annual budget meetings, when they
Sure.
begin and how they go?
Yeah, we have several budget meetings that are already scheduled and planned. The first one is tomorrow night. We have 3 different phases of accounting, talking about all of the different departments and different funds that we have, and informing the mayor and commissioners of the proposed budgets for those 3. And so we have a meeting on Tuesday, May the 5th. We'll be talking about budget items. Then again on Thursday at 5 o'clock on the 7th, there'll be another meeting. Mm-hmm. The next Thursday, May 14th at 5 p.m., there'll be a 3rd budget meeting to discuss the rest of the funds and departments. And then hopefully on May 19th, which will be a council meeting after tomorrow, the next regular meeting, we will finalize and approve our budget for the next fiscal year. It should happen on May 19th. So there will be opportunities for the public to sign up and listen in and speak to different budget items if they would like to. So,
yeah, and I'd like to jump in there with these meetings, and certainly we'll take as much time as we need to for the mayor and commissioners to be comfortable and have the information they need to make the best decisions to allocate those resources. But we're going to be impacted. We are already impacted, like the rest of Enid, by the COVID crisis. Strangely enough, 2 of our best sales tax months have been in March and April. But we believe that's because of Oklahoma Tax Commission compliance efforts in December and January. We're going to know in about a week what our May receipts are going to be, which are really lag about 2 months behind. And so I think based on March, with a lot of the panic buying that was going on and the stocking up of things like toilet paper and cleaning supplies, we think that it probably may still be a good month, but then we're going to see a decrease because of the closing of non-essential business and the impact to the ones that were essential. It'll take a while for that to come back. We certainly hope this reopening plan is the beginning of an effort to move towards getting closer to how things used to be. Maybe by the fall, I don't know, but things will never be, quite the same. But the impact on the city looking at the next fiscal year is significant. We're looking at a 10% reduction in sales tax, which is roughly about $3.5 million. Hotel tax is down about 17%. I don't have the exact dollar figure of what that is, but it's significant. Water revenues, even water revenues are impacted largely because of our large industrial customers who have had their operations impacted. So therefore, they use less water. So almost every revenue budget item is going to be significantly reduced, and that impacts the city's ability to provide services. So we hope that the economy will rebound as soon as it can, safely and responsibly. But even if it does, we're still going to be impacted.
So do we see this being another year or two, perhaps, that this will be on that level, or you think it's going to get back up in another year?
It's hard for me.
Or is there no way to say?
It's hard for me to. Again, my crystal ball doesn't really go out that far. But looking out past this next fiscal year that would end in June of 21, I would think fiscally we would be back closer to normal. I would be surprised if we were not. I know that there's very smart people. There's incentivized corporations out there right now looking for a vaccine. Probably things can't really get back closer to normal until there is a vaccine, which is anywhere from 12 to 18 months to a long, long time. So, but in the meantime, I think the city's following the right path of trying to reopen responsibly, because we're all going to have to deal with this, whether it's the city, a business, a church, a nonprofit. They've got to take the measures necessary from cleaning. We're all washing our hands. But if it means checking temperatures, social distancing, we've already talked about, that stuff's going to be with us for a long time. And, you know, some of the things you talked about that may change forever, gosh, it's hard to imagine shaking somebody's hand anymore, right? So I don't know if that's going to come back at some point or not. But anyway, I think things will be fiscally closer to normal by June or July of 21, I would think.
Okay. Well, I want to thank both of you for the updates. Do you have anything else to add, whether it's COVID-19 related or city related? Just general?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. We want to thank all of the residents and citizens of Enid, visitors, whoever you may be, for joining us for this update. You can join us Friday for an update from the Garfield County Health Department. And have a great day.